Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Golf on Tap. I'm your host, Joey Ricotta at Joey Knows Nothing, joined by my partner, as always, Jack Bushman at Jack Bushman2. We are Golf on Tap. You can follow us on Twitter at OnTapGolf. Go ahead and follow OnTap Sportsnet at OnTap Sportsnet on all social media platforms, and check out Jack's golf articles at OnTapSportsnet.com. You can find that and more Chicago sports-related content on OnTapSportsnet.com. Jack, I'm excited. It's the third major of the year this week. We got to talk about last week, too, before we get into it. But, Jack, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Joey. Thank you for coming on for two shows this week. It's a big week, obviously. The toughest test in golf is many have deemed the United States Open, of course. So I'm really stoked for it. It's a course that obviously not many people are familiar with whatsoever. I think it's going to be really unique and offer a very strong and sturdy test as always, but also is going to be different compared to what we see a lot out of US style setups and major tournaments in modern day golf. So I'm really stoked for it. Hopefully we can, kind of ride the momentum we've got from these first two majors. You obviously hit John Rahm, at the Masters, Brooks Koepka at the PGA Championship, got me my first major win since DJ at the Masters in 2020. So it had been a while for your boy, but hopefully we can keep it going here this week. It's going to be an exciting tournament, man. I'm really excited for it.
I'm so ready. And when I say I'm so ready, it's just more emotionally and like mentally, like I need this, and emotionally and mentally. But like I am not totally prepared this week as far as like I don't have my card lined up. Usually on Tuesdays I'm pretty much more with it, so I feel like I'm disappointing this week, and that's why we're going to have two shows. We're probably going to anyways, let's be real, because it's a major, so we wanted to do that, but we've had a week or two off now. Yeah, man, a lot has happened. You mentioned it though. I am going for, Jack, not only my third major in a row, my fourth major in a row. Because you look back to last year with the Open, Cam Smith, I'm going for my fourth major in a row. Like, that's fucking unheard of, dude. I can't get all these little in-between tournaments I feel like shit about, especially the fall swing season. But that's something that's got me hyped up. So I'm really interested to hear your takeaway and like thought process going into this tournament and what your course breakdown really will be, because I think a lot of your insights will kind of help dictate what I do as a better, as I know I take away a lot of what you say and kind of apply that to my own little method to the madness. But yeah, Jack, a lot's happened since we've been on these airwaves, since we've been on these microphones. The big bombshell, obviously, we'll talk about last weekend too. And you can see it in my name here, but give you a little hint if you've been under a rock and don't know what's happening. But Live Golf and PGA Tour merged out of nowhere. Like, I mean, it's not that I don't know if we didn't see this ever happening, but it just felt like it just boom. Like I get a text message and update, and Live and PGA Tour have merged, and it's like, what in the world happened? Completely changing the scene of golf with this news, just like shocking everyone. Jack, your thoughts, takeaways kind of from what just that news alone.
Yeah, you kind of said it. I think this was, I don't want to say obviously the end goal, but I think most people knew at the end of the day, Live probably wasn't going to succeed by itself. And the ultimate goal was probably for this to happen. And it felt like it was going to be, a couple of years down the road. It felt like there was still a lot of tension between the two sides. And obviously we didn't hear any reports about this. So the timing of it was really what was the most shocking. Like no one saw it happening when it did. And it really felt like the PGA Tour kind of got their hands forced, because there are still so many details that we don't know, that the players don't know, that quite honestly, it sounds like Commissioner Jay Monahan still doesn't know, because there's still a lot of proceedings and things to go forward before this becomes official. But the groundwork has been laid here. The ultimate picture is that Live Golf and PGA Tour are going to be combining once again in some way, shape, or form. What does that mean? Again, we don't know at this point. There's far more questions than answers right now, but for the average fan of golf, for golf fans out there everywhere, this is a massive win, undoubtedly, because you get big name superstars. Brooks Koepka obviously just won the PGA Championship, probably should have won the Masters had he not had a horrid Sunday. So that obviously, I think, kind of forced the issue a little bit and made the PGA Tour kind of realize, these guys are still capable of playing at the best on golf's biggest stage. Phil Mickelson obviously finished in second at the Masters.
Yeah.
So those guys have been still quite able to hang in there despite going to the Live Golf Series. So I think that kind of started putting the things into motion a little bit. We had heard some reports that talks with Live Golf and the PGA Tour and Jay Monahan had happened for a couple of weeks, but it seemed like this was going to get leaked by some news source, so they kind of had to get out in front of it and let the players know. But unfortunately, most of them still found out on Twitter. It's been handled obviously horribly by the PGA Tour, and they look like a bunch of hypocrites. That's the downfall of this. It's a huge win for golf fans. The biggest stars are going to be coming back. It's going to be even deeper fields. There's going to be bigger purses, which is great for the game, great for the players, great for those elevated events, or what they're going to call them in the future. But the cost of it was obviously Jay Monahan looking like an absolute fool. I don't see any way how he's going to carry on being the commissioner for much longer once this deal kind of gets put together. I think unless he somehow legally ties his way into it, I don't see how he's going to be the commissioner for the PGA Tour moving forward. And the ones I truthfully feel bad for the most is, well, for number one, Rory McIlroy, who really did all of the talking and all of the defending on behalf of Jay Monahan and had to speak out numerous times. It obviously had weighed on him, even in his victories at the Canadian Open last year when this really started, and he had to talk about it there. And after his win at the Tour Championship as well, you could tell it's just something that obviously Rory didn't enjoy having to do, right? And now for all of that to be for essentially no reason whatsoever, the PGA Tour is still taking on the Saudi Arabian money. Even worse, the players who stood by the PGA Tour and did the right thing, not necessarily, I know a lot of them, I'm sure, didn't stay because they didn't want the Saudi money, but now that's the exact money that they're going to be making. Like, it's just a whole bunch of irony from the PGA Tour's perspective. And I'm sure there's a lot of angry and frustrated players out there. We've heard a bunch of reports. We're going to have to wait and see how this all shakes out. Again, there's a lot of details to still be finalized. It's a win for golf fans and for the game of golf, but just a foolish act by Jay Monahan over the last year, going on the air saying this will never happen. It's like, man, all of this could have been avoided if he just had some sort of conversation with them a year ago, but no, he let his ego and his pride get in the way, and that's kind of when everything went downhill for him. So yeah, really curious to see how this is all going to shake out. But yeah, what a shakeup in the golf world, Joey. I literally tweeted out things that no one could have saw coming for 500, Alex, because the timing of it was just like, no one had any sniff of this whatsoever. Even Rory, Tiger Woods, supposedly, like, this was done in closed doors and was kept quiet for a few weeks. And man, what a crazy news drop prior to the Canadian Open. Fortunately, that didn't get overshadowed, though, Joey, and I'm very happy for the Canadian Open, because what a freaking tournament we had last weekend, man. What a freaking tournament.
It was great, dude. The tournament this past weekend, and I'm actually, it's kind of why I'm a little upset that we didn't have a show last week. Obviously, you know the reasons behind that. But yeah, it was a great turnout. What happened, what transpired, you can see it in my name. Whoa, Canada. Got their winner, 72-foot eagle in the 4-hole playoff against Tommy Fleetwood, Nick Taylor. Wow.
Yeah,
wow, man. Awesome stuff.
And how many times do you see me like hyped after an event where I had the loser in the playoff? I had Tommy Fleetwood, and man, Did
I
it
didn't even
really?
realize that.
It
Damn.
stung. Oh, it stung. I mean, you're telling me Tommy Birdie's 16, Birdie 17 is tied for the lead and is going to a sub 500 yard par 5 that he's birdied all 4 days. I know it's uphill and it makes it a little bit longer and more difficult, but all he had to do was make birdie on that hole, and he made an absolute mess of it. Not only did he miss the fairway off the tee, he then made a really interesting choice to lay up, which then he missed the fairway with his layup also. So that put him in like a potential spot to now miss out on the playoff, perhaps. It was a wild swing of events, and man, Tommy had 2 looks in the playoff to seal it for himself, and he missed both of them. So, it was definitely frustrating, but the atmosphere there for the Canadian Open to see them get their winner for the first time in 69 years, Nick Taylor with literally a miraculous putt, the longest putt of his entire career. The crowd was going crazy the entire time. I also thought it was super cool how like Corey Connors, of course, Adam Hadwin got absolutely tackled trying to run onto the green and spray Nick Taylor with champagne. He literally caught an edge spear in the process. But I thought it was really cool how they had like all the Canadians out there, Svensson, Hadwin, Connors, and then there was like Team Europe basically out there for Tommy Fleetwood. Shane Lowry was there, Justin Rose. It was a really cool scene and a really awesome atmosphere and, of course, an electric finish for a national open that really has produced 2 incredible tournaments back-to-back years. Last year, Rory McIlroy obviously won for the second, not consecutive year, the second consecutive tournament. And he was duking it out with Tony Finau and Justin Thomas at the end. And it's just been really cool to see Canada get that level of golf. And they also now have 4 Canadian winners on the PGA Tour this season alone. So Canada's playing good golf. They're producing electric events. I hated to lose it, man. It would have been awesome to see Tommy finally get that first victory, but I was really happy for Canada, happy for Nick Taylor. It was an incredible moment for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It was awesome. Like the atmosphere was super cool watching him, and it meant everything in the world to Nick Taylor. Obviously, you could just see it. You heard him say it. Basically, what did it mean to you? I think was maybe the question, something along those lines. Everything is what he pretty much said. Like you really can't put into words when you're like you feel like you're playing for your entire country, and in a lot of ways he was. and yeah.
I can't believe he still birdied 17 and 18 to get in. Like both those putts were crazy, not gimme putts that he had to go and make. And man, looking back on it, like I don't want to say everything went right for Nick Taylor to get that job done.
Kind of true though.
Like it really did. I can't believe Tommy didn't birdie. Did you, by the way? I don't know if you saw this, but Daniel Rappaport from the Foreplay podcast, they're on site at Los Angeles Country Club for the U.S. Open, and they ran into Tommy Fleetwood. Did you see that by chance? Did you see his caddy kind of chew out Daniel Rappaport?
No.
So Daniel Rappaport made a tweet, which obviously he's like a big name golf writer, so he's the one that's obviously going to get the most clicks and is most likely to be seen by like a caddy or a PGA Tour pro. But numerous people out there were absolutely shell-shocked by Tommy's decision to go and lay up when he was in the rough there, when he might have had 260 or 270 in, but it's a 499 yard par 5. Just go and mash it up there as close as you can to the green. Everyone's been birding it. It hasn't been giving people any trouble. Instead, he lays up, which puts him in an even worse spot. And Daniel Rappaport kind of criticized that decision to lay up there on the 18th hole. And Tommy Fleetwood's caddy kind of like went at him a little bit. He was literally like, he's like, do you smoke crack? Do you smoke crack? Have you ever played this course? Like it was an interesting little kind of like fiery debate. And I was like, dude, like no offense, but you made the losing decision there.
Right. You were wrong.
You made the losing decision. Like, and hate to be like, Tommy Fleetwood has no PGA Tour wins, bud. Like, yes, he's won good events on the DP World Tour, but those are decisions that cost you tournaments, and like you let him do it. And he was clearly frustrated in that moment. I really thought, based on Tommy Fleetwood's demeanor over that third shot when he had to get it on the green after missing the fairway with his layup, he was rushing it and he was clearly frustrated. I'm like, he's fucked. And it was just like a meltdown scene for Tommy Fleetwood there on the 18th. And just an interesting little conversation that I saw in the golf world today. Not sure if you saw that, but just really weird stuff.
I'm gonna
Tommy,
go look though now, because that's, dude. It's the guy that, like, when you're wrong and you just can't admit that you're wrong. Like, that's pretty much what that sounds like to me.
He was wrong. It was the wrong decision. Everyone blasted it up there. There was no laying up. There's literally there's no laying up on a 500-yard par 5 unless you're someone like us who has to. They don't have a choice. The second shot ain't going on the green. We got 300 yards out.
We can't hit it that far.
These guys are pros.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that decision, but congrats to Nick Taylor. Incredible event. Looking forward to Canadian Open for years to come after that one, for sure.
And now you know why I don't bet Tommy Fleetwood anymore.
Man,
that's not really why, but I
haven't been a Tommy bettor until like the last month, and I see why people don't, because it is quite frustrating.
Oh, it's a ride, dude. He's, and it's not a fun one. It's not a fun one. It's the ride that you don't want to be on. Yeah, yeah. This past weekend, he was playing so well, man. So well. But it's stuff like that though, when he gets close enough and you just feel like it's right on the verge, and then he just doesn't come through. And especially, I've done it in majors too. Bet him in quite a few different majors in the past, and I just can't, man. I don't know what it is with Tommy, but maybe it's his caddy. Maybe that's an underlying thing here that we really need to dive deeper into. I mean, I don't know.
It really felt, this is the last thing I'll say about Tommy. We got plenty of other stuff to talk about than Tommy Fleetwood.
We're 17 minutes in. We haven't even really talked about any of the scores.
It really felt like that was Tommy's time. And the fact that it wasn't, it really makes you think, is there going to be a time? And I know there's been a lot of resurgences this year, and I wouldn't be shocked if Tommy won this year because he's been playing great golf. But man, that was handed to him. Like I said, the easiest hole on the course, a hole he's birdied all 4 days. Everyone was birdieing it who was in contention late. Not Tommy Fleetwood to win.
Unfortunately for him. But, Jack, we got to get into this week.
Yes, we do.
It's a big week. We were acting like it's not, though, because we're talking so much about – we've had a lot to talk about because we have not, like we said, we have not been on the mic. And it was a big tournament ahead of a major, which you don't always see, right? Like, sometimes it's just – whatever, last week's over with. Let's get
the Byron Nelson before the PGA. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Right. We see that a lot, and so it's cool that we didn't have that this past week, and especially and Rory was right up there again last week too. So I mean, what did he finish? T9 or something like that?
Oh, no, he continues to shit the bed on Sunday.
Yeah. But this week, Jack, the U.S. Open, third major of the year, 123rd U.S. Open, L.A. Country Club, the LAC, North Course. I'm just gonna make up little words here, but that's pretty much the shortened abbreviation for it, LACC. And it's not the Clippers; it's like the Los Angeles Clippers. They just added another C to it. First ever major championship. It's hosted. Finally, another major in L.A. First one in 75 years for Los Angeles. Yeah, Jack. North Course, par 70, 5 par 3s, 3 par 5s, 7,421 yards. Bermuda grass, everything. Fairways, rough, greens. Talk to me. I know you've dove pretty deep into this course, and I need to hear what you're about to say because it's going to, like I said, it's going to help kind of dictate what I do with the board this week. So what are your thoughts, and what did you find?
Yeah, basically my one sentence that I'll give you, and then I'll dive into everything. It's interesting. This is a course, like I started off the top by saying, it's something that I don't think we see very often in the game of golf, particularly with these major championships. Now, obviously, it's a very old course. It was created in the 1920s. But as you mentioned, while you referenced Los Angeles hasn't had a major championship in 75 years. LACC hasn't held a professional tournament in 80 years. It really has only been held been the host venue for like U.S. amateurs, women's amateurs. Most recently, though, we've seen it be the course for the 2013 Pac-12 championship and the 2017 Ryder Cup, but it's been tinkered with a lot over the last few years by Gil Hans and company. And Gil Hans is a name that we've seen be involved with a lot of major championship courses in recent years. Winged Foot, the Country Club last year, Southern Hills is another one. So he's had his input on a lot of major venues, but this one is for sure a very different style than we see mostly. So what Gil Hans really did here is he elected to remove a lot of the trees, which we did hear that at Oak Hill as well, but this is going to be vastly different here. At Oak Hill Country Club, you could kind of get away with being wayward, and that's not the case here at LACC. While the fairways are some of the widest that you will see for a major championship, that's the intriguing part of it. One of the biggest parts of the restoration process was extending these fairways. I believe the average yardage of them is 50 yards, the 16th largest fairways among all courses on the schedule this season. So really wide fairways, but if you miss those, it's not going to be the punishment that you saw at Oak Hill, because there's going to be fescue, there's going to be the barranca, which you're going to hear numerous times throughout the week. It's basically just like a dried up ditch that runs alongside the course through some of the holes, and it kind of takes the place of a pure water hazard. There aren't water hazards on this course, Joey, but that's what's kind of interesting about it, because when you hit the ball into the water, you're a little bit capped at the outcome, right? You have to drop your ball, you lose a shot, and you're basically just 2 shots back. Whereas hitting the ball into the barranca here or losing it in the fescue, that's going to put basically your hands, your ball's going to be up to the elements. Basically, you're not going to have any control over the lie. You're going to be hoping for a good break, and that's going to bring in things like double bogey, triple bogey, real big numbers into play. So it's a very interesting setup with these wider fairways, and it also doesn't have the most penal rough. I actually believe the rough last week at the RBC Canadian Open is going to be thicker than what we see here. So there are going to be times where you're going to be able to get away with being a little bit wayward, but losing it wide is not an option here. And it sounds like the bomb and gouge strategy that we saw Bryson deploy at Winged Foot when he absolutely massacred that course, that's not going to be an option here because of all the elements that are in place. But it is still, being a major, it is still a beast of a course. 7,400 yards, par 70. You referenced only 2 par 5s. Another interesting aspect of this course, Joey, is how they've kind of designed some of these holes. You get a couple of the par 3s that are going to play close to 300 yards, 280 yards, 290 yards. They're going to be playing downwind. They're going to be playing downhill. There's a lot of elevation change throughout this course as well, but they're almost like what I've heard in the golf media. They've been described as par and a half holes. Like, I believe it's numbers 9 and 11 or numbers 7 and 11, I think it is, that are both like that, where the par is really going to be like 3.5. And it's going to be interesting to see how players approach this. There's also still going to be those long par 4s, 450 to 500 yards. I believe 4 of the 10 par 4s this week can get up to 500 yards. And that's another interesting factor to keep in mind, is the USGA has said they're going to be moving around the tee boxes, and that's going to make things very drastically, because one of the par 3s, for example, can play 140 yards. It could also play 70 one day. Like, there are going to be interesting style of holes, things we don't see very often. And I think it opens up the door a little bit more than we see usually in these majors, where it's kind of the guys who hit the ball the furthest and who are the longest. They usually, take the center stage because of their ability to hit the ball so far and give themselves less distance. And the tee boxes are going to be moved around. Some days this course can play probably 7,500 yards. Other days it could be 72, 7,300. So that kind of opens things up. We also expect the fairways to be super firm and super baked out. Not only here where we are in Illinois, but there's like a drought going around the entire country right now. I heard there hasn't been like a serious rain in LA since middle of May. So it's going to be baked out. It's going to play firm. The fairways are going to be running. And yeah, like I said, I think that's going to open some things up a little bit this week. But one thing I also want to mention before we kind of talk about some of the players is the elevation changes in the slopes and all the runoff areas. That's kind of how these fairways work. They're so wide, but there is kind of a mental aspect to it about putting your ball in the right spot. It's similar to Augusta National or Kapalua, where the Century Tournament of Champions is. There just aren't a lot of even lies on the course. So putting yourself in the right spot of the fairway is going to be very important as well, because, well, sure, you might hit the fairway with this shot. You could still have a blind approach coming in, or you could not be able to go at the pin at all because of where you leave yourself. So it sounds like there's a lot of strategy involved in this week. There's a lot of different holes that I think people are going to map out and try to play and figure out what suits their game in particular best. And I think that's what leaves so many things up in the air, and what kind of adds to all the storylines that go into this week, right? Like, there's obviously so many good players in this major field, but we're not exactly sure how LA Country Club is going to play, since we haven't seen it ever host a major or a professional tournament in 80 years. We don't know exactly like what type of skill set is going to work or be favorable over others. I think it's super intriguing, and what should make for an awesome U.S. Open here this year, Joey. And I'm super excited to see this thing in action. As I referenced earlier, I'm going to be doing some more hole by hole breakdowns here in the next 24 hours before we get in our show tomorrow. But that's kind of the basics of this course that I have come to learn. Like, it just sounds like it's very unique, very different, and something we don't see really in major championships.
Should be fun, man. I you said something interesting too to me about the tee boxes moving around this week with how differently that can play. Now we see that from time to time, but not seeing this course before, and then you see the yardage. It sounds to me like the range there that you gave, 7,200 to 7,300 at times, and then 7,500 maybe at other times. Like, to me, that means that there's more of a gap to go shorter than it is a gap to go longer. I would say is that by design to maybe open the door for more shorter players here, maybe as the tournament moves along. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of thinking based off of what you said, I might go more of an accuracy and kind of all around game, but like maybe not as long as I was expecting to go based on what you look at from total yardage standpoint.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, or am I kind of crazy for thinking that off of what you're saying?
No, I kind of think I'm getting what you're saying. Like, I am curious to see what days they're going to play it which way. Like, what are they going to start off with on the first day? Are they going to play it more difficult and longer the first day? Are they going to start it with a little bit more accessible tee boxes and stuff? I do think, though, that accuracy over distance this week, I think you still need to be fairly long in order to actually win this thing. But I don't think distance is kind of the end all be all like we see usually in majors, usually at the US Opens, where, fairways are long and narrow. And, well, if you're going to miss the fairway, you might as well miss it 335 yards up there to give yourself less distance in, right? That's not the strategy that's going to be deployed this week. So I think, the combination of distance and accuracy is going to be very important. But guys who are wayward with their driver, I certainly have some concerns about just everything that can happen because of the fescue, because of the Barranca, because of all the elements that are in play here. I mean, this is really a resemblance of kind of like an Australian sandbelt style course. I've heard Congaree, which hosted the CJ Cup, if you remember, in the fall. Maybe that's something we should go back and look at before the show tomorrow, or before we make our final bets.
I remember that.
I've heard those courses are very similar to what we're having here, and you just don't want to be too wayward there. You want to be in the fairway. The ball is going to be running. I've also heard comparisons to the Open Championship and courses we see there, because you're usually able to, keep the ball on the ground and let it run because it's so firm and is link style golf. I think there's elements of both those courses in Los Angeles Country Club. So yeah, it's an extremely intriguing dynamic. And like I mentioned, I'm really stoked to see it in action on Thursday for the first time.
Me too, man. How much are you factoring in short game importance this week?
Crucial. Absolutely crucial. This is probably one thing there's just so much information in my brain that I try to spew out here on this podcast. I did mention the fairway rough is not all that penal unless you obviously get really far wayward. The greenside rough and bunkers are brutal, man. That's something that Gil Hans really put an effort into, is making those bunkers more of a true hazard. They're steep. They look like they're going to be difficult. And the greenside rough is really thick, really bundly. It almost looks like fescue in its own. And man, you could be in serious trouble missing these greens. So short game is going to be extremely important. I think no one's going to get around here scot-free. You're going to be tested, and you're going to have a good short game this week. I think it's a different style rough than we've seen compared to just the thick stuff that we saw at Oak Hill. I think this is a really intricate style rough. I think bunker play, short game is going to be really important. And then along with that, I just mentioned all the penalty for missing the greens. Long irons, approach with long irons. There's going to be a plurality of shots coming from 175 or 200 yards out. I think those are going to be really key this week, because while the greens are big, missing them is extra penal here at LACC.
Colin Morikawa.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
always think it.
Yeah, but the long irons is what brought me there. But yeah, man, I don't know.
Boy.
That's I do like Colin Morikawa, but past results here. Matthew Fitzpatrick, can he go back to back? Last time we saw that was Brooks, obviously 17 and 18 seasons. The past winners, Rahm, Bryson. Before Fitzpatrick was Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Gary Woodland, Brooks. Then the back-to-back years, DJ, Spieth. The list goes down from there. Justin Rose is a past winner. And then Rory as well, just for U.S. Opens at least. As far as this year for the majors go, we know John Rahm won the Masters and Brooks won the PGA Championship. Yeah, I'm locked in, Jack. I have nothing actually locked in on my betting card, but curious to see where you are if you have bet anything yet. So why don't we get into it? You ready?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. So here's the odds. These are better prices, probably, in other spots. Right now we have Odds Checker up, just kind of giving them a quick little shout out, but there's only a couple here listed as we can find. So definitely shop around, look for the best odds possible. So just a little note there. But 7-1, Scotty Scheffler. I mean, nobody's striking the ball better than he is right now. The tee to green game, it's insane. You mention it pretty much every show, and it's relevant every week. So 7-1, Scotty Scheffler. And then Rahm, 11-1. I mean, that's a big skip there from Scotty Scheffler and John Rahm, where we've kind of seen them pretty close as far as odds go week to week. But now you've got a little separation there. Brooks, 12-1, who's probably, I mean, he has not been, I don't remember what his odds were for the PGA Championship, but they were not 12-1. I can tell you that.
I think he was 18.
Was it 18? Why do I feel like I got him at 22?
I think we got him at 21 with a boost, maybe. Or maybe he was. No, we did get him at 22. He was 22-1, not 18.
You could be right about the boost, though. I don't know.
We got him at 22.
But then Rory 14-1, and then Patrick Cantlay 17-1. Those are the top 5 right now from the odds that I'm looking at, which again, they could be different on various platforms. But what do you see here at the top? I mean, a lot of good names here. Patrick Cantlay seems to be, a lot of people on him this week. Where do you fall? Scotty, obviously, I think people are on just about everybody up in this range. Are you going with Rory? What are we doing, Jack?
I'm not going with Rory this week, and he's probably like, I would almost say the odd man out of this group, if you will. There are cases to be made for all of them, of course, as you said. Scotty Scheffler, will he finally just cash in on that incredible ball striking? literally just comes down to the putter. If he doesn't lose 5, 6, 7 strokes, he's probably going to win if he continues to hit the ball from tee to green like he has. And 7-1, I mean, I know it's a major, but it's really a fair number for a guy who, in a tournament, a major championship where tee to green usually reigns supreme. Obviously, all signs point in that direction. The one thing I will say, he's not a bent grass putter, man. Only one of Scotty Scheffler's career wins have come on bent grass. So that's kind of my thing with Scheffler. I'm more intrigued by Jon Rahm and Brooks Koepka, more so Jon Rahm at this point. I mean, man, the dude has just absolutely lit up California his entire career. Obviously won the U.S. Open in 2021 at Torrey Pines. His first career victory happened at the Farmers Insurance Open. He's ran through California this year. Like, Jon Rahm has done a lot of special things in California. And while Los Angeles Country Club isn't really comparable to any of those courses, there's still something to be said about that. Rahm obviously won a major at the Masters not all that long ago. And if Scotty Scheffler wasn't on the run he was on right now, Jon Rahm would be the forefront of the golf world still because of all the wins that he has this season. So I'm probably more inclined to go with Jon Rahm. I do think the boogeyman Brooks Koepka is just absolutely terrifying. How can you, especially after we just won outrights on him, like, it's hard to not bet on him once again. The only thing is just he's close to Jon Rahm, and if I had to choose, shoot, that's two really good guys that I'd like to be choosing from. I'd more so lean Jon Rahm at this point. I also don't have any bets made at this point in time, so I'm still kind of finalizing things, but it's really feeling right now like Rombo is going to be the one who's on the card. Rory, I mentioned earlier, there's just some concerns about being very wayward here, and he can get wayward. And whenever the biggest thing for me about Rory is it just feels like right now he can't get out of his own way. He's making mistakes that he shouldn't be making. He's hitting wedge shots, missing greens. It's, he's putting himself still in contention, but a couple of bad Sundays in a row here. Would I be shocked if Rory McIlroy won? No, but out of these guys here at the top, I just don't see myself getting to him. I get the love for Patrick Cantlay as well this week, and it feels like, man, for how well he's been ball striking it and how good his game has been off the tee and how well of a bent grass putter he is, like, it makes a lot of sense. He obviously has California ties as well, went to UCLA, so lots of reasons to love Patrick Cantlay. I get it, but you got to make some decisions here at the top. I probably can't get two of these guys, so it's looking like Rahm for me is what I'm thinking right now. But again, nothing finalized at this point.
A lot of great points there. I think, wow. So Rahm, you think, could get his second this year?
Why not?
I mean, it's not unrealistic for him, right? I mean, even Brooks, as good as he's looked, not unrealistic for either one of those two to get another one. Kind of surprised Scotty doesn't have one yet. Crazy. If I'm being honest, like, I think I was on both Scotty and Brooks for the last major. And then obviously glad that it was Brooks because he had a better payout. So that was nice. But yeah, man, I mean, it feels like Scotty's that dude that's just like a T5 floor at this point. Like, it's kind of wild.
He can literally lose 10 strokes putting and he's going to finish in the top 10. That's how good he's hitting the ball. It's literally video game numbers. It's better than Tiger Woods. It's an incredible run. And I will not argue anybody who bets Scotty Scheffler this week. The path is so clear. Don't be dog shit on the greens. But from what I've heard, man, it just sounds like there's going to be a lot of 5 to 10 footers here. And those are the knee knocker ranges that Scotty's had an issue with. And I referenced, he hasn't been the best bent grass putter historically throughout his career, not only just during this run, but it's been the surface that has given him some issues. So yeah, I have some concerns. I do think Scotty is an excellent lag putter, and 3-putt avoidance is a stat that I think should be looked at this week with the bigger greens and how tiered they are and the slopes and the elevation of them. 3-putt avoidance is going to be a key stat. He does that well. I just worry about the 5 to 10 footers.
I'm kind of with you. Like, right now, just based off of what you've been saying and the putting and the short, I don't really want to pay 7-1 price on Scotty. And it's just so obvious that he could probably win this thing, but at the same time, I mean,
I'm say this too. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize, but literally every time since Scotty Scheffler has emerged as a superstar, every tournament he's won, we've said that exact same thing before it. Like, We have before the Masters, before he won that, like before he went on that crazy run, it was like, oh, Scotty won again. How surprising. Like
It's not.
He wins
It's
events that aren't surprising that he wins.
it's you know what? It's not surprising anymore. Like nothing he does on the course is surprising to me anymore. Like I would not be shocked by anything. I would be shocked. I should rephrase that. I would be really shocked if he finished outside the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I would be shocked by.
100%.
Like, but I'm kind of leaning in the same direction you are. I think Rahm is the guy that I'm probably leaning towards the most. I can't do Rory. It's not, and I didn't mean to laugh earlier when I first said his name. It's not. I do feel terrible about the live thing. I think he was stabbed in the back by that whole situation. Obviously, he had a chance to make more money, and he's been a big brand ambassador for the game, for the PGA Tour. Big brand ambassador, and really took a bullet for the PGA Tour, right? Like in so many different ways. And him and Tiger, and I only imagine what his frustration level is, and maybe he just goes out there and takes it out on his golf game, right? Like maybe this dude just like locks in, and he finally gets another major, because it's been a while. So I mean, I don't know, can't put it past anybody here. But that said, I don't know, Jack. I still don't know what I'm going to do, but we got to kind of keep it moving here a little bit. There's some other interesting names just below them, obviously. The next five, really 6, 7, 8. I mean, all these guys on this board this week are intriguing to me for different reasons. But Patrick Cantlay 17-1, Victor Hovland 18-1, Xander X gonna give it to you 20-1, Jordan Spieth 24-1, and Max Homa 29-1, and then Cam Smith 30-1. Really, probably a good fit here for Cam Smith. So, I mean, X2. I don't know, man. What do you? This is the range where I really, really need your help. I think these five, and maybe even if you wanted to toss in Tyrrell Hatton at 32-1. I think he's been playing some outstanding golf lately. So, really need your help here. What do you see, if anything? I don't know. I know you don't have any bets yet, but like, where are you leaning?
Yeah. This is also the range where I don't know if Odds Checker is doing this for everyone out there in the golf world right now, but they're only showing odds for like PointsBet and FanDuel. Maybe they gave them like more money for US Open this week to like only show their odds and get people going in that direction. But there's a lot of better odds out there once you get away from those big five. What do you got to say?
That was my mistake, by the way, because I was supposed to switch over to somewhere where it had better odds. We talked about that off air, and I did not do that. So my apologies. But yes, Jack, you're right. Better odds out there. So do not take what I said as the odds.
Yeah,
Look
so
around.
Make sure to shop it around. The two guys that I like the most here are Xander and Hovland. Xander really is the same argument as Patrick Cantlay. You can kind of put both of these guys in the same bracket, right? Except Xander's been the better major player. Like Cantlay has finally started to put together some high-end finishes, or some better finishes, I guess I should say, in major championships. Xander's the guy who has really been consistent at those. And I know he was disappointing at the PGA Championship. I was on him there too. But still at the Memorial, he had a really disgusting start. He opened with 77 and bounced back with 66 the next day. But I still think, man, that this just feels like the time. We've seen a lot of first-time major champions here as of late. I believe 11 of the last 15 major winners have been first-time major winners. So it feels like the time is calling for Xander Schauffele. He's obviously got that incredibly well-rounded game. An LA native. He's incredibly accurate and has good distance. The approach numbers have been incredible. The around the green has let him down a little bit, but man, I think Xander, I've just been penciling him in here at LACC as the spot for him to get that first major for far too long. It's going to be hard for me to get off of him. Victor Hovland at 18-1, I think is intriguing as well. I would have preferred it at like 22, but he kind of, ruined any chance of getting that number by that victory at Jack's place. But he's just been progressing in all the right areas in major championships. And for me, I didn't necessarily want to see the win at Memorial, but I wanted to see another strong, competitive Sunday in a tough field on a tough course. And that's exactly what I saw. So that was my mindset going into it. And I don't think, even though the odds aren't what I love, that should kind of boost me away from Viktor Hovland. He's been knocking on the door for majors for quite some time. Also has kind of some California ties where he at Pebble Beach, I know, again, different course, different layout, but believe he was the low amateur there in the U.S. Open, and also has won there in his career as an amateur. So I kind of like Viktor Hovland and Xander Schauffele the most out of this range. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get both of them in, if I'm going to have Jon Rahm at the top of my card, but those are the guys who I'm drawn towards the most. You did make a great case for Hatton. I think he's been playing outstanding golf. He's been so consistent, especially in elevated events and major championships. I just don't love that 30-1 number. If there's another person I'd be inclined to go with, it's Jordan Spieth. I think his artistry and the way he's able to move the ball and do lots of different things is going to work into his favor this week. So those are kind of the ones that I've been looking at the most here.
Yeah, Xander was the first one that caught my eye here. I'll say that. I'm not a guy that bets Xander every week, or it definitely depends with him, in my opinion. But I mean, 8th in strokes gained approach, 12th in strokes gained putting, 4th in strokes gained total. Did I say 8th strokes gained tee to green? I mean, you said it. It's the around in the green game that's kind of let him down this year. I don't know. I think that's kind of difficult to kind of gauge this week from my perspective of how that's going to translate, because I think he just has a really good all around game for the most part. And I kind of like Xander here. I haven't pulled the trigger, not sure what I'm going to do. So definitely waiting for that tomorrow. I'm going to think about it, but I don't know, man. Vic, I just can't do it in a major, even after the win. I don't know. I'm crazy, probably. I'm just not going to do that with that number. I would have liked to see a 25, and you're probably right. He probably ruined that chance of like a 22 or 25 or something like that. Then maybe I'd probably do it. But 18, what is it on like the best book that we can find right now?
I think the best out there is 18.
18. Yeah, I don't.
You can boost it on DraftKings. They got a plus 300. You can get them at 21, which honestly, that's kind of where I've considered doing it. DraftKings has Rahm listed at 8-1, and I've thought I should probably just go bet the 11-1 at FanDuel and then use the boost on Viktor or Schauffele, I guess in this case, and get them at over 20. It's probably where I'm thinking. It's probably where you'll see me end up tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's the right call. Yeah, because it's 8-1 to 11 anyways with the boost. So
right.
Yeah, I would 100% do that if you're gonna bet both. That's something that I like to do a lot, actually, is just look for little tricks like that. If you can find a little trick, just use it. If there's a little tiny edge, definitely do it. The other guys in this range that you talked about, I think I kind of liking Cam Smith. I don't know. I think he really fits this course well. I don't know if I'm going to do it or not, but I do have a history with Cam Smith.
You do.
Do like betting him in some majors, but I did take him. Wasn't he my one and done pick? I think he was my one and done pick for the PGA Championship. So
yeah, and he fucking bailed you out with the round of the day on Sunday. He was horseshit all tournament and then finished 9th. It's terrible.
All turn, dude. I was scared. I was honestly scared out of my mind, and he came through for me in the clutch.
Yeah,
so
shot like a 66 on Sunday. It was like, what?
Absolutely nuts, dude. Nuts. So I don't know. I could see that. Like if he doesn't play like shit to begin with, he's got a shot because he's a guy that's got stones, man. I think this is a guy that if you get him in position in that last round, I think you're feeling good about him in that final spot there. So Cam Smith, somebody I'll consider. A lot of love for Spieth this week as well. You talked to me a little bit about Max Homa. So where are you at on those two?
I'm out on Homa. Fully out on Homa. I hope he does it in LA. King California too. He's not Rahm's level yet. When it's kind of regardless. I'm out on Homa. Jordan Spieth does have me thinking a little bit, but it comes down to card form and shape at that point in time. I do like Spieth though.
Yeah, I think Spieth is always a guy you got to watch for in the majors. I think Fitzpatrick has just not been golfing as well. As if we're looking down the board here, 35-1, DJ 35-1, Morikawa 35-1, Finau 40-1, Mr. Letdown himself, Caddy not giving you the right advice, 40-1, Tommy Fleetwood. I don't really like where Fitzpatrick has been this season. Just overall, I just do not like where he's been this season. And maybe that's going to bite me in the ass this week, but I think I can feel pretty confident avoiding him. Unless I find something within now and the next show tomorrow, I think I'm off of Fitzpatrick. Morikawa was somebody who I'm actually going to look into, I think, quite a bit. What are your thoughts here, Jack?
Yeah, I'm out on Fitzpatrick. Morikawa does make a lot of sense. He's just so frustrating. Hard to put it. He's almost like Matthew Fitzpatrick for me too. Like hard to put a finger on exactly. Like, would I be surprised if they contended? No, but I also think they could totally miss the cut. I'm not concerned about Morikawa's back injury, is what I will say. That wouldn't be the reason to steer me away from Morikawa. Honestly, if he gets to 40, 45, like that's probably going to be a bet for me. I do have some interest in Tony, man. I do have some interest in Tony. I know the putter's gone cold. I think this is as good of a major setup that Tony's had in quite some time. I don't know if I'm actually going to bet it. It's probably not the smart decision to do in a major championship. He doesn't win tournaments that are like this very often. He's done it once in his career. And that was the Tour Championship or the BMW Championship in the playoffs. So not like this. I don't know. This is an interesting range too. There are some names. I'm out on Fitzpatrick, probably out on DJ. I can't go back to Tommy as bad as I want to. And not at 40, 45-1. That's a ludicrous number. Finau and Morikawa are a little interesting to me.
It's not Cam Young week?
Fuck no. He stinks.
Bryson, man, the bomber. I mean, I just think it's going to be more than that this week.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to do.
I think this is a terrible setup for Bryson. I think this is. I wouldn't be surprised if Bryson made the. I just don't think Bryson's going to be in contention. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong.
Former U.S. Open champ Justin Rose. Any love there?
No, I do like Rose. I don't like him at 45-1. Honestly, Hideki. Hideki's the one for me. Out of like this 40, 45, 50 range, it's Hideki for me, man. Always.
When's the last time have you bet Hideki in a while?
No, I
haven't either.
I haven't bet Decky in a long time, and honestly, I'm feeling it. Like he was so good at the Memorial for 2 rounds, and then took a big old dookie in his pants on Saturday.
He took a Hadouki.
Yeah, he took a Hadouki in his pants. But Hideki, underrated around the green play. Really good short game. The putter, it always prefers to be on bent grass. I like it. I like Hideki. Good track record at U.S. Opens and in majors in general. I honestly like Hideki probably the most out of anyone in this range. 40 to 50-1. It's Decky for me.
Off air, I mentioned my boy.
Oh yeah, new irons, baby.
Yeah, I know. That's what you brought up, and I don't love that going into a major. No. Jason Day,
his irons have been great. Like, what are we talking about?
That's what I'm saying, dude. For all the reasons why I've loved him all season, it's because his irons came back to life. Why would you switch your irons before a major? Why?
No idea. Not a wise. It's he keeps doing things like this. Like he's not. What was it before? I think it was before Oak Hill. He like didn't go and have a practice round or something. Well, and
he was. It was awful, dude. I didn't bet him that week. I don't think I bet him. I'm pretty sure I said I'm not doing it now after that. I don't know.
I don't know what Jason Day's strategy is right now, but it sounds like he's got his head up his ass.
It sounds like he's overthinking what's been working well, and he's
Yeah.
trying to hit like another level of playing well. Like, dude, stay on fucking track.
For real.
Keep doing what you're doing. Eventually, you're gonna pop up and like stop.
I don't get it either.
So, anyways, Ricky didn't get the victory I thought he was gonna get. I know, right?
I wanted Ricky to win the Memorial so bad, dude.
I wanted to go to
So
Dairy
bad.
Queen. I wanted to go to Dairy Queen. We didn't end up going to Dairy Queen. Just
poor back nines on Sunday continue to plague Ricky.
Yeah. JT 50-1.
Ludicrous number.
That is a great number for JT.
It's the biggest number he's ever had since he's won a major. Biggest number he's ever had.
And we're just off of it. I don't know, man. I'm going to have to think about that, really. I think
if it gets to 60, 66, it's an auto bet.
I might even have to think about it.
I'll tell Corey Connors to fuck off. I'm betting JT at 66.
Just what is Connors this week? Oh, okay. He's 80.
He's been dropping, which I love to see, baby. I love to see that.
I mean, if JT gets to 66 and Connors is at 80,
Nick Taylor can go win the Canadian Open. My boy Corey Connors got bigger fish to fry, baby.
That's right. That's why he took last week. He said, "All right, I'm rooting for you, Mr. Taylor." But Sunjay M 60-1, Shane Lowry 65-1, Sam Burns 65, Siwoo
the Woo
70-1, Adam Scott 70-1, Wyndham Clark 70-1. I'm just like naming off all these names right now because we don't have to spend like a ton of time tonight on each one of them. But I think Wyndham Clark, I don't know about a major, but like I really like where his game's at right now. Am I crazy, dude, to say that this could be a good spot for him again?
No, I wouldn't think you're crazy. The one thing I will say about this range, there are names. I think you either have to pick where your long shot is going to come from. If you're going to bet Wyndham Clark or guys in this range, we'll get into more. I think he has to be your last man in.
What about Mito?
Also, okay, so just talking about guys in this range who I genuinely have intrigue by. Wyndham Clark for sure. Distance, ball striking, good putting as of late, popping up in strong events. Obviously won an elevated event not that long ago. I think the 71 is one of the best numbers out there, to be honest. I think it's a very fair number on Wyndham Clark, and he's been really good. My boy Corey Connors, I'm going to bet Corey Connors unless JT drops. I'm going to bet Corey Connors. He loves him some U.S. Opens. He loves him more difficult courses. This is the setup for Corey Connors, baby. Hit those fairways, hit those greens in regulation, and don't putt like dog shit. I'm probably going to bet Corey Connors as long as JT doesn't fall.
Hey, he's 6-1 for a top 10, too. That's a
pretty good number.
I kind of like that.
Mito. I'm not going to get there with Mito, but the ball striking. I know live golf events, it's like hard to generate that data, and it's a little bit wonky because the fields are so small. But even at the Masters, at the PGA Championship, the guy can ball strike. The guy can ball strike. I don't know if they're still out there. There was Mito over 100 out there before. It's probably been smashed down at this point. But those are kind of the guys. Obviously can't bet all of them. Probably going to bet only one. For me, it's Corey Connors because I'm a sick fuck. But that's probably where my card ends, man. And I think that's the decision. It's either one of these guys and that ends your card, or you get down a little bit further and that ends your card, because I think honestly, after 70, it's 70, 80, it's not a conversation anymore. There's maybe one or two guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Who are your guys? Just shout out names for shouting out names real quick as we wrap this thing up.
Like down the board?
Yeah, just shout out. This is a shout out names to shout out names.
Yeah, let's shout out names to shout out names. Kurt Kitayama.
Honestly, let's make that a segment. Shout out names to shout out names.
Yeah, I think that needs to be every week. I mean, we kind of started at the last episode, but
yeah, shout out names to shout out names, and I'll say yay or nay.
All right, sounds good. Let's do it. Harris English.
Nay.
Kurt Kitayama.
Nay.
Sahith Theegala.
Nay.
Tom Kim.
I love me some Tommy Kim.
I do too.
This course setup is so fucked for him now. Too long.
Eric Cole.
Putt. I think Eric Cole's interesting. I don't know if you bet him outright because that might be foolish, but I think a first round leader for Eric Cole, get him some redemption after he got absolutely bamboozled at the PGA Championship. Do you remember that, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had the 2-shot lead and for some reason decided to come back out on the course Friday morning on the hardest hole on the course, immediately duck hooked it into the water, and all the Bryson DeChambeau cashers out there were absolutely pumped about that. I do think Eric Cole is interesting, and he not in scrub events. Like Eric Cole is playing consistent golf and ball striking. And I'm really happy for him. This is a guy who was grinding through the mini tours, was dominating at that level and racking up wins. And to see him now solidified on the PGA Tour and putting up consistent high-end finishes, I think it's really cool. And more so than that, the numbers back it up. I don't think Eric Cole's going to win the U.S. Open, but I do think there's some interest there as maybe a top 10 or top 20 play.
Well, the one that really caught my eye, obviously everybody's, I think, and yours included, but you've known how well he's been playing before that, but the tournament that I really went, wow. And then he kind of backed it up after that was a tournament where Chris Kirk won, I believe.
It was the Honda.
The Honda. Yeah, that's right. Who's all right. We'll throw his name out there. Chris Kirk.
So here's, sorry, before we go on to Kirk, here's Eric Cole's run that he's been on since the Mexico Open. T5 at the Mexico Open, miscut at the Wells Fargo, T23 at the Byron Nelson, T15 at the PGA Championship, missed the cut at the Charles Schwab, T24 at the Memorial, T6 at the RBC Canadian Open. There's a lot of good finishes and good events. He's been good.
What's his top 40 at? That's a lock for me.
That could be a really good bet. I don't know what his top 40's at, but
I don't usually do locks for golf. It's plus 130 on a certain book I'm looking at right now. That could be better somewhere else. I think that's a lock for me. Get out the padlock. Let's do it. I think Eric Cole's the top 40.
I like Eric Cole.
That's my first bet of this tournament. It's a top 40 Eric Cole.
There you go. Do you have any more names you want to shout out?
Yeah, for the sake of just saying it, Phil Mickelson.
Power to you if you bet Phil. It would be fucking hilarious. It would be fucking hilarious. I'm not gonna bet Phil.
No, there's two other names here though that do kind of Keith Mitchell. Yeah, distance-wise, he can play.
You're a big Keith Mitchell guy.
I love Keith Mitchell, man. I think it's gonna be his day sooner rather than later. I don't think it's this week. I think it's gonna be his day sooner than later. Justin Suh is a guy you're on quite a bit.
I had two names left. Justin Suh was one of them. Continues to just putt so well. And if the irons cooperate, there's high upside there. He's struggled to show it through 4 days. He might be, honestly, a first-round leader bet. But there's game there with Justin Suh. The other name that I had, we're over an hour here now, and low-key, I do got to pee, and we're talking about scrubs. So the last name I have here is Denny McCarthy. 130 to 1.
God, please.
Popped up at the U.S. Open last year. Really, really deserved to win the Memorial. I think it's
a fair
number.
Sure, it's a fair number. Sure. I'm not going to give you shit about it, but at the same time, I'm going to give you shit about it because I just can never bet Denny McCarthy.
I've never bet Denny ever. Not a single time in my entire life. Not once.
I think I have, but I immediately regretted it. There's a weasel in this group, too, we didn't name.
Oh, I'm not betting Brian Harmon at a major. I'm not betting Brian Harmon anywhere. Unless it's the first-round leader the week after a major, because that's apparently when he's good. Somebody
with irons, though. What are you thinking? What do you think I'm about to say?
Someone with irons. Let me just scroll through the scrub boards down here.
Yeah. Hey, be nice to him, all right?
Irons. Taylor Moore? No. Taylor Moore?
Nope. Not who I was thinking.
Oh, is it Shanky, baby?
I like Shank. I hate Shank. I like him, but I hate him.
He deserves a win, man. I don't think it's going to be the U.S. Open, though.
The Grill Master and Tom Hoagie, too, are a couple names that will shout out there. But
you're a sucker for Tom Hoagie.
I really am. No, it's terrible right now, though, for him. So,
How bad is it that Billy Horschel's 400-1 under Padraig Harrington, who's legitimately playing on the senior tour?
Bro, he's awful.
Billy Horschel won the Memorial last year.
Billy Ho sucks this year. This guy is awful. He has lost his way, and he is not coming back until I don't think he's coming back next year.
What sucks too is right when I started liking Billy Horschel, he just stinks now. Like I like finally had this 360 on Billy. I started to like him. Now he just blows. It's like, come on.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when we start betting golfers after they start doing well. See, this is what we need to switch up. Well, I mean, I do like following trends and stuff, and I do like following how well they're golfing, but like sometimes you just got to throw a dart. I mean, look at all these random guys that pop at the board every week, and we're just like, oh, I'd never bet that guy. I'd never bet that guy. And then there's a guy that's in the top 10. We're like, where the fuck did you come from? Like, and then he golfs well for like 3 weeks in a row sometimes, so, I mean, not to say that Billy Ho, I just call him Ho now. I don't know. There's no Horschel. It's just Billy Ho. Not to say that he can't do it, but I don't see him doing that.
I don't either.
There's also a Corey Pereira. If we're speaking of Mito, there's a Corey Pereira in this group. You want to know his odds, Jack?
800-1.
I don't even know how to say this the right way.
The number's too big.
2,500-1.
Pretty good odds.
The limit does not exist.
There's probably value on that. I'm not going to do the math, but there's probably value there.
Yeah, you want to put $1 on it?
I'll pass.
We'll put a quarter on it. I don't even know if we can bet a quarter. I think that's it, Jack. I think that about wraps up this show since we're coming back tomorrow. Any final thoughts before we head on out of here and you take a pee?
Yeah, I got to go like a racehorse. Just super stoked for this event. Excited to see how things are going to shape out for both of us tomorrow when we come back on the show. I know, like you said, you got a lot of more deep digging to do. I do as well. I'm going to be looking more at like hole by hole stuff and kind of just like getting an exact sense of who I can cross off among the guys that I still like, because there are too many. They all can't fall on the betting slip. So excited to see how this is going to go tomorrow when we come back on the show for our final bets.
As am I, my friend. I think you guided me in a pretty good direction as far as course goes. So I'm going to take that and apply it accordingly, or at least I hope so. Not going to be on probably all the same guys that you are, because there are some guys in there that I just admittedly cannot do, like Victor Hovland, for example, which he could easily win this tournament. But yeah, with that said, we will be back tomorrow. Not sure on the time yet, but tune into that on Twitter or on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe at OnTap Sportsnet on the YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when we go live. Cubs, Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, White Sox, bets, just like this, and golf. You can find us at OnTap Golf on Twitter. We are Golf on Tap. He is Jack Bushman. I am Joey Ricotta. He is at Jack Bushman 2. I am at Joey Knows Nothing. Till next time, crack 'em, lock 'em, cash 'em, and fuck 'em.